What it do, cuckolds? It's your boy the Hater up in this piece. It's Friday night and I'm outside, which must mean one thing: Friday Night Review, my favorite night of the week in terms of the Haters channel. Now, let's talk about Smackdown a little bit. I personally thought that this episode was garbage, and the reason why it was garbage is because what the hell just happened? None of anything that happened today made any sense. So without further ado, let's do it like we do it, and that is go through every segment one at a time. The show opens up with Jimmy Uso and the now inferior original tribal cuckold Roman Reigns. They come out, and then eventually Jey Uso comes out. And as expected, Sami Zayn comes out and says literally the same exact thing he said on Monday. Not one thing was changed. All of this could have just happened on Monday if Roman Reigns was there. But because Roman Reigns is Roman Reigns, he shows up whenever he damn well pleases. At this point, this is going out of hand, and it's concluding the exact way that all of us knew it would conclude. Despite the fact that Michael Cole is telling us nobody expected this, gaslighting us one step at a time. Basically, Sami Zayn is acting this whole time, along with Jey Uso to an extent, as if the Bloodline was this incredible stable of equals. It was basically Roman Reigns as a champion and a bunch of jobbers, right? The Usos were his lackeys, Solo was his lackey, and Sami Zayn was a comedy character and the ass of all the jokes of the Bloodline. He was never this like a real member. The entire point was that he's comic relief and that nobody takes him seriously. And at the first sign of dissension, they turned on his ass and beat him down with chairs. But for some reason, Sami Zayn likes to open his asshole so he can get rammed by the Bloodline again and again, right? The stable, the Bloodline, as it originally was, including Solo Sikoa, right? Those 5 people, even Paul Heyman, right? All of them were under the oppressive thumb of Roman Reigns. That's how the stable was presented. It wasn't presented like this group of equals, like Evolution was, you know, where like there's like a mentor-mentee relationship, right? It wasn't presented like that at all, where bringing the group back would be this like gargantuan achievement, right? Roman Reigns was the head. Paul Heyman was basically his bitch, right? Paul Heyman was the wise man, but he was always subordinate to Roman Reigns. Like, if you compare Paul Heyman's relationship with Brock Lesnar, where he's like, go Brock, go get him, to his like, I love you tribal chief, like, you know, to his like submissive situation with Roman Reigns, it's clear what the stable used to be. Now they're gaslighting us into thinking that this was a group of people that would like hang out and party and do these other things. The entire stable was basically Roman Reigns doesn't think of anyone in the stable as his equals, except for maybe, ironically, Solo Sikoa, whom he respected because Solo Sikoa was the guy that would actually help him win matches, right? Everyone else would get their asses beat by like Kevin Owens, and then Solo Sikoa would come and attack Cody Rhodes and win the match for Roman Reigns, right? Now, the stable is being retconned into something else. However, Sami Zayn asks Roman Reigns for an apology. Not for him, but for Jey Uso, right? This is where Roman Reigns kind of took the reins back from his character, right? And he was like, not apologizing for shit, I'm Roman Reigns, right? And apparently, this was enough to end the segment. Sami Zayn said, if you don't apologize, basically, I'm done with like tribal chief stuff. I'm done with bloodline stuff. Sayonara, right? So he leaves. Commercials start. After the commercials, we see the Usos and Roman Reigns backstage. And the Usos basically say, like, what's wrong with you? Right? Roman Reigns says, who do you think you're talking to? I'm still him, basically, right? And that's what happens. Nothing really worthwhile to talk about, right? Next up, also, it should be noted that during this segment, which ran too long, Jacob Fatu cuts a promo for the first time. And he's even more, like, ghetto than the other Usos, right? This guy, like, he really must think he's black. But I did like the promo, I'm not gonna lie. It was very fluid, and it made Jacob Fatu feel intimidating for the first time ever, right? He was like, basically, like, he was talking like no nonsense type shit, like, I'm gonna beat your ass. And basically, the takeaway from Jacob's promo was that Solo Sikoa does whatever the fuck he wants, because now Solo Sikoa is the tribal chief, undisputedly, because he destroyed Roman Reigns. This ends this segment, then we get a match. Bayley versus Candice LeRae. The story of the match is Bayley used to look up to Candice LeRae, but has since surpassed her. Candice LeRae tries to cheat and trick Bayley. It doesn't work. She gets pinned. Nobody cares. Last year, Bayley won the Royal Rumble. This year, she's celebrating victories over Candice LeRae, who is lucky to even have a job considering that Indy Hartwell got released. So, with that being said, we move on to Backstage. Backstage, we got Shelly and Sabin talking to Johnny Gargano. Gargano's like, yeah, go beat up like, Austin Theory and Grayson Waller. They got really punchable faces, right? And he's talking like a cuck. They say, sure, we'll do that. They leave. Tommaso Ciampa comes and he's like, what the fuck's wrong with you, right? Johnny Gargano says, I've known these guys for a long time. And Ciampa's like, all right, it's time to get some victories. They're taking our spot. Ciampa is like the only character in Smackdown that understands what's happening, basically. Who's not like this retarded person just bouncing off walls. More on that a little bit later. Orton comes out, and basically him and Owens have a brawl. The brawl was not bad, because it was actually a brawl. Kevin Owens comes out, and he doesn't back down, right? This is the only version of Kevin Owens that is even remotely interesting. The heel Kevin Owens, who is willing to fight anybody, right? Even if he's smaller and inferior to Randy Orton in every conceivable way as a wrestler, he's willing to fight. They fight. Kevin Owens does a cheap shot, hits Orton with a pile driver. I would have liked to see the package pile driver because that would have really sold the move a lot better. But a pile driver works. The announcers and the whole segment puts over the pile driver as a move that's been banned in WWE. Now, if I'm Tony Khan, what I'm going to do next time that Dynamite is on or whatever, I'm going to have everybody do pile drivers just to show that AEW is superior to WWE because they don't ban moves like that, right? That would be a pretty big dick move, so hopefully they do that, right? That's the way to go about it. Be like, oh, over there they acknowledged this move is banned. Well, I'm going to pile drive someone off of a ladder onto a table, right? Like, that would be a good way to put over AEW as a place where, like, they don't do pussy-ass things like ban moves. They acted like Randy Orton was shot with a cannon. He took a pile driver, and I understand the pile driver is, like, somewhat a protected move, but it's a move that people do all the time. Like, in TNA, it's Eric Young's finishing move. You know what I mean? People do the pile driver. People do the tombstone pile driver, which is fundamentally the same thing. You know what I mean? The idea is that the pile driver puts Orton out, takes him to the hospital. In doing so, Cucky Rhodes also goes with Randy Orton, right? Cucky Rhodes, during this entire few months, has been a complete disaster. This guy is pretty much like if they fire him tomorrow, I don't even think anyone would notice. Like, you wouldn't notice if Cody Rhodes gets fired because he never has any kind of presence on TV. You wouldn't notice at all. You'd be like, oh, where's Cody Rhodes? Who? Oh, that guy who was WWE champion. Yeah, nobody cares about the WWE title anymore. Cody Rhodes has essentially made it completely obsolete. You know what I mean? That's just how that is. I don't care what anyone says. Cucks. Next up, we have DIY versus Pretty Deadly. This was awesome. The match starts as Michael Cole is talking about Prime Energy, right? The match starts essentially during a commercial. The bell rings. I don't know why they did it this way, but they did. When we get back to the ring, when the camera turns on the ring, Tommaso Ciampa's already destroyed both of Pretty Deadly, right? He then proceeds to beat the shit out of both of them savagely for about 2 minutes. He throws the blonde one in, hits the fairy tale ending, and pins him without tagging Gargano in. I really like this. I really enjoy the fact that Tommaso Ciampa is basically taking things seriously, right? And they allude to the fact that he used to be the Blackheart, right? I don't want to see Tommaso Ciampa turning on Gargano for the 19th time. I don't think anybody wants to see that. But I did like that Tommaso Ciampa basically is saying, I'm taking myself seriously from now on, right? That's always a good thing. Look what it did to Bronson Reed for a few weeks. Now Bronson Reed is once again a jobber, but nevertheless, it had an opportunity to do something, and it did. Next up, we have Bianca Belair and Jade Cargill versus Tiffany Stratton and Nia Jax. Candice LeRae interferes. Naomi comes to counter-interfere. Bianca eventually hits the KOD on Tiffy and wins it. This is a complete disaster, a complete waste of time. Not one person could have possibly been entertained by this. And as you can see, we've had basically no matches so far, right? We have one more match. This is like the long match of the week, I guess. Like it's like the match that would typically involve this Game 7 of Carmelo Hayes versus Andrade, except it's Motor City Machine Guns versus Grayson Waller and Austin Theory, who should be released at this point. Basically, the match is competitive, but Motor City Machine Guns win with the skull and crossbones, and that's the end of that, cuckolds. Then we see a little segment. It's Nick Aldis introducing, this is one of the worst things I've seen in my life. He's introducing the women's United States title, which is effectively the same thing as the men's United States title, but with the word women's on the title, right? This is ridiculous. Now we're going to obviously get the women's intercontinental title. And here's the problem with that. China was intercontinental champion when it was only a men's title. So now when, like, I don't know, Nikki Cross wins the women's intercontinental title or some other jobber wins it, are they going to put her on the same category as China? Right? Are they going to acknowledge that China won the real intercontinental title? You know, I would prefer to go back to that kind of stuff. I don't know, have like the intercontinental champion be someone like Angel Garza, rest in peace Hector Garza, and then have Angel Garza lose to Jade Cargill. That'd be more compelling than having like the equivalent of Kaylani Jordan on Smackdown winning like the mid-card jobber title that nobody cares about. There used to be one women's title, now we've got 2 world titles. Soon we're gonna have this bullshit. Then we've got the NXT title. Then we got the other NXT title. Then we got the women's NXT Tag Team Champions or whatever, which are now just the Tag Team Championships, I guess. So there's 2 champions that get that. So at any given moment in WWE, there will be 7 women who are champions of some sort. That's absurd. That's ridiculous. Nobody wants to see it. But lo and behold, that's what happened. Now it's finally time for the main event segment, right? This was a disaster as well. Basically, Solo Sikoa justifiably comes out, and his argument now is, I'm here, cucks, and I am that dude, right? I am the undisputed tribal chief by virtue of laying the smacketh down on Roman Reigns' candy ass. So he comes out, and predictably, of course, Roman Reigns comes out. Roman Reigns says, I challenge you to a one-on-one match, because that's how I roll. One-on-one match, winner becomes tribal chief, right? Wait a second. Right before this, Roman Reigns said he'll never acknowledge Solo Sikoa. So even if this were a real match, the implications are that if Solo Sikoa beats Roman Reigns again, that still Roman Reigns will not acknowledge him. So what is the incentive of Solo Sikoa to do this, right? Solo Sikoa picks up on this and calls him out. He's like, why would I fight you when the reality is that I am the tribal chief, right? I am him. You know, he didn't say all this, but basically he has the Ulafala, and as far as we're concerned, up in this mug, whoever has the Ulafala is the tribal cuck. So there you have it, right? Now, Solo Sikoa says, find 4 guys to team with you. I thought this was like an error, because Solo Sikoa, even though his promo skills are getting better, he stumbled his lines today, didn't know what the fuck he was saying. So, but it wasn't, right? Basically, Roman Reigns says, you talking about tribal combat or whatever, you talking about war games? And Roman Reigns did this like squinty eye thing that he does now. It's really weird. It's almost like this, like he does basically the same thing that Bianca Belair does when she talks down to like other women. It's very weird, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know why he's acting like a broad, but he is, right? Roman Reigns, in my opinion, has lost all credibility. The entire storyline here is Roman Reigns can't do it by himself. He's a cuck now. He's the original tribal cuck. So basically, Roman Reigns says, you talking about war games? There's only 4 of you. And Solo Sikoa says, 1? He starts counting everybody, including himself, right? And he gets to 4, then he says, and the 5th guy is my dog, Sami Zayn. Now, this is where the haters started laughing audibly, because this is retarded, right? We saw that last week Sami Zayn came and did an exploder suplex on Solo Sikoa. Then he accidentally kicked Roman Reigns in the face. This is obvious, right? And this is also corroborated by everything that Sami Zayn said. So in what world would this retard, Solo Sikoa, think that Sami Zayn is on his side? There's no reason to think that at all. Sami Zayn came last week and suplexed his ass. So this week, Sami Zayn comes out again. As Roman Reigns is getting an ass whooping of a lifetime, the Usos come in. They get quickly destroyed by Jacob Fatu, right? And so now Roman Reigns is getting his ass handed to him. Now with all of this, Sami Zayn comes out. This is also extremely dumb, because Sami Zayn earlier tonight said that if you want me, I will stop interfering with Bloodline business. And Roman Reigns didn't apologize, so Sami Zayn should have been a man of his word and should have moved on. But of course, this is not going to happen, right? It's not going to happen because Sami Zayn is a cuckold. So Sami Zayn comes out and goes in there before Solo Sikoa is about to hit the Samoan spike on Roman Reigns. He says, come on, Sami, kick him in the face. Sami Zayn, wow, what a shock. Instead of kicking Roman, he kicks Solo Sikoa in the face. In other words, he does exactly what he did last week, except this time he doesn't miss with the kick. That's all that happened. He just came out, did what he did last week, and attacked Solo Sikoa. And then, after like Roman Reigns spears Solo Sikoa and beats up like Jacob Fatu as well, the original Bloodline is in the ring as Michael Cole is putting this over as the moment that it is actually not, right? Jey Uso raises his finger. Jimmy Uso does the same. Sammy does it, and then Roman does it. So now the original Bloodline is back as a loose alliance, according to Michael Cole. Now the problem is the whole thing about raising the finger is to acknowledge that there is one person on top, right? It's also like we the ones or whatever, but it's basically like acknowledge me, right? Like Roman Reigns says acknowledge me, and the fans put up their fingers, right? So Roman Reigns is the tribal chief. And furthermore, does the stipulation that was arranged between Roman Reigns and Solo Sikoa still hold water? In other words, if Team Roman Reigns wins, is Roman Reigns the tribal chief again? If so, what was the point of Jimmy Uso and Jey Uso taking the abuse? Earlier in the night, Jey Uso says, you know, like, because Roman Reigns disrespects him, and he says, we talked about this. This is your one pass, Us. Right? Is he going to get numerous passes to disrespect the Usos like he's been doing for years? And furthermore, when Roman Reigns and his team wins, so what, right? Who gives a shit? They got 50-50 booking. It's taking way too long. Nobody cares about the Bloodline. Nobody cares about how this is going to play out, right? And with that being said, I thought the show was a complete and utter disaster of epic proportions. Cuckolds.